Hey guys, welcome to Bonehead Truckers. We got some breaking news out of Oklahoma. This just happened. Oklahoma just passed on the Senate side SB 20. Okay, and I'm going to show you some of the debate and the vote. Now, what we'll have to do, it will have to go back through the House, because last week it went through the House, but they had to do some verbiage, some language changes, some tweaking. So it has to go back to the House tomorrow, which will be Thursday, May 22nd. And that should be no problem whatsoever, because it passed like flying colors last week. So I'm going to let you guys listen. You guys are going to love this, man. You guys are going to love this. I'm over here just tickled listening to the support that the Oklahoman senators have for this bill and for you, the truck drivers, and the safety. Huge shout out to Sen Sakiri. Okay, she is the author of this Senate Bill 20, and she poured her heart into this. And a huge shout out as well to American Truckers United, and because if it wasn't for them, this would not be happening. A lot of big things are going on in the trucking industry that we are winning, and it's going to save life, folks. So without further ado, let you listen to this debate.
For the debate, Senator Wingard, you're recognized for debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I sit here and I listen to the questions and the comments, the debates, and what everybody has to say and ask and the questions. And the first thing I wonder is how many people in here have actually driven a semi? How many people actually know what it takes to operate one of these trucks? I personally have driven a truck, and I know what it's like. I know how difficult it can be to handle them. I know how heavy they are. I know how big they are. I also know how the traffic drives around you. When you go through and you look at this and you think about what we're trying to do, we're trying to protect the citizens of Oklahoma. We're trying to say, if you're going to be here, you're going to operate on our roadways in a commercial way, driving a vehicle that if and when it gets in an accident is generally going to be a significant accident, just due to the size and weight these vehicles have. You know, you look at this, some of the questions brought up about deaf people. Yes, a deaf person can get a CDL, must have a waiver. So you're not guaranteed, but you can with a waiver. Then you go back and you look in the section of law where it's being talked about this, and it just says converse with the general public. Handwritten notes could be a way to conversate. Understanding highway and traffic signs and signals in the English language. Most deaf people that know sign language have also been taught how to read and write in English. So I don't think there would be issues there. Respond to official inquiries and make entries of reports and records. Again, my experience with deaf people is that they can do every single thing we can. Their spoken words are different than ours. But that would not, as I read this law, it wouldn't be in conflict. You know, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep people safe while not putting a big burden on any particular industry. The trucking industry has its ups and downs. I think that they're going through a period right now, personally, where there's a lot of issues with different things going on. They're not things that we can address here. But you're starting to see a lot of people come in that are non-English speaking, likely not American citizens, because they will work for low pay, very little experience, very little knowledge, and they're putting them out on the road hauling 80,000 pounds. And you have an individual can't read a road sign, has no idea what's coming ahead because they can't read the signs. And then all of a sudden their GPS says turn here. So now they're just going to veer off. They don't have the experience, so they're not paying attention to their mirrors, and maybe they don't realize that they can't stop as fast as that car can. So we are putting people at risk when we allow people like that behind the wheel of a vehicle that weighs 80,000 pounds or more. So I would urge a consideration for a yes vote. Maybe this bill does need some work, and we could always come back next year and do some amendments on it if we find issues with it. But at the end of the day, we are trying to protect the citizens of Oklahoma, and that's where I'm at on it. Thank you.
Further debate. Senator Coleman, you're recognized for debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I get older, I start losing my memory. But one thing I'll never forget is a late March 2020 drive to this building. It was in the midst of COVID. We had to come back here. We had to come back in here 3 at a time, put our foot on the floor and make votes so we could go home and vote remotely. What I remember most about that day was trucks. That was the only thing that was on the interstate. It was me, my wife, and a bunch of truckers keeping the shelves filled. And they kept the shelves filled all the way through COVID. This bill is for the trucking industry. I've got a good constituent who's asking me to vouch for this. This bill will help the trucking industry. Like any industry, there are bad actors. And in the trucking industry, there are bad actors, and they use non-domicile, non-English speaking drivers. The same driver who blocked the Turner Turnpike on Friday night, he was non-domicile, he was Russian speaking, and he jackknifed his truck. I really, really think this bill is good for the public safety, but it's good for the industry, the legitimate trucking industry of Oklahoma. I urge you to vote yes.
Further debate. Senator Yak, you're recognized for debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I think what we've shown over the last hour is the value of committee work. I think we all serve on committees, and we do that for a reason. We are a deliberative body, and I think some of the issues with this bill would have been addressed in committee. I will say this was originally in the Transportation Committee. SB 20 was in the Transportation Committee. It was completely different than this, and it passed through that committee. It passed off the floor, went over to the House, and really at the last minute, it was gutted in the language and it's really not the language that you see here. It's been amended and it's been worked on a lot since it came over from the House. I do believe this is a public safety issue. I think this is a problem that needs to be addressed. The language that you see here, our Senate staff, to their credit, they've done a lot to make it, in my opinion, acceptable. There was some language in there before that was not acceptable to me as a transportation chair. So I guess to the author's credit, there was some effort eventually done to make this more palatable. So with that, again, I do believe this is a work in progress. I can support it at this time because I think something needs to be done. It is disappointing that this wasn't done timely. It wasn't done back in December and January when bills are typically filed. I will say that our rules do allow for this process to happen, or we wouldn't be where we are today. So with that, in its current form, Mr. President, I can support this bill today.
Thank you, Senator
Further
Yak.
debate. Senator Weaver, you're recognized for debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I rise in support of this bill. I must admit, I concur with several of my colleagues. I wish that it could have went through the committee process. I think we all like that. I think that's the way it's designed. But I'll remind all the members that we start the first week of February. So a lot can happen in the months that we're here. I know there's things that slip through the cracks. There's ideas that come up. There's stuff that's compelling. And I think the members have been here as long as I have or longer. They realize that that does happen in this building. I didn't know for a fact that the author has worked with people and tried to get ideas on this bill. But I really support it overall. But I can stand honestly before you and say I've been in public safety where there is a communication barrier. And I'm telling you, it gets ugly pretty quick. And you just have to be careful, because if you can't do basic communications, it's one thing if you're trying to get someone to do a job for you that is some type of labor or something, and there's a communication barrier. There's a whole different situation when you're on the road or you're out in an enforcement action and the person does not understand each other. It's just different. And I think what we're trying to do, this is probably not a perfect bill, but it's at least a start to try to wrap our arms around this. I had very much like from my friend from Kay County, I had a business owner, owns a trucking company that is in full support of this. I asked the question, what about the gap? What about some bridging over with this language so people that can learn and maybe are close to being fluent in this language, how are you going to do it? And they're saying, you know what, we need to do something about that. So the industry wants to have drivers on the road so the shelves will be full. But I think this is a good start today, and I appreciate the author bringing it.
Further debate. Senator Green, you're recognized for debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have driven trucks. I've owned trucks. My brother owns trucks now. I think this is absolutely a safety issue. I've looked at running this same language in January and decided not to. It needs to be done. These trucks are 80, 90,000 pounds. That's what people need to get in their head, that these trucks don't stop on a dime. And when you can't read signs and trying to figure out where you're going, it's a real issue for not just the guy in the truck, but everybody around him. And when there's an accident with 80, 90,000 pounds, it's usually a bad accident. With this, I encourage a yes.
Further debate. Senator Sakiri, you are recognized to close debate on the adoption of the CCR for SB 20.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I do appreciate every single one of you with your input today. And I wish it would have went through the committee process as well. I truly do. And I simply can just say that there was no time at the point that it was raised to my concern. And I, just like several others that have just debated, see this as an immediate need to address. We are the crossroads of America. And if we can ensure that truckers within our borders are qualified and well-trained, who can read our road signs, everyone, including that non-English speaking driver, will be safer. So it doesn't matter if you drive a brand new 18-wheeler or a 1984 Chevy Celebrity. We all have an obligation when we get behind the wheel of a vehicle to ensure we know the rules of the road and how to operate. When warnings and signs change the makeup of where you're driving. Simply about respecting the rules of the road. And I hope to earn a yes vote from all of you today on both sides of the aisles, because I believe it is that important. This bill has been endorsed by several Oil and Gas Workers Association, OK Ready Mix Concrete, because they're the ones on this side of the road that are possibly in risk. OK Wreckers Association, American Truckers United. I've ran this through DPS, OTA, ODOT. All are on board with the language in this bill. So I thank you for the time today and allowing me to present it. And I urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Members, as a reminder, we are voting on the CCR for Senate Bill 20. It is a voice vote. All those in favor of adopting the CCR signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. CCR is adopted. Members, Senate Bill 20 is for you on fourth reading final passage. Will there be debate on the bill? Seeing none, vote now occur. If you favor the measure, vote aye. If opposed to the measure, vote nay. Clerk will open roll. Are there those wishing to vote or change their vote? Chairs appearing closed. Senator Hamilton, Senator Jett, Senator Mann, Senator Hines, Senator Pugh, Senator Guthrie, Senator Devers, Senator Gallagher, Senator Reinhardt, Senator Thompson, Senator Racino, Senator Seifert.
Looking good, folks. It'll have to go back through House again
Chairs
tomorrow.
close the roll. Having received 36
But
ayes
this
and
is
10
huge.
nay, I declare Senate Bill 20 to have
This
passed.
is huge for
Now,
trucking.
Senator Sakiri asks unanimous consent that the vote on the bill be considered the vote of emergency, giving those the right to change who so desire. Without objection. That'll be the order. There will be changes. Seeing none, I declare Senate Bill 20 to have passed as an emergency measure.